The manufacturing industry is at a critical crossroad. It's facing an aging workforce, high turnover, and a shortage of skilled labor. That's where Dozuki comes in. Its digital solution upskills the frontline workforce to boost productivity and safety. Today, we are joined by the company's CEO, Jerry Dolinsky, and Vice President of Product, Alan Jung, to discuss how manufacturing companies can build a digital frontline fit for the future. So Jerry, Alan, first of all, welcome to beautiful Davos. It's wonderful to have you here with us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Nice to be here.
Now, manufacturing frontlines have been around for centuries. So Jerry, I want to start with you. What exactly kickstarted the idea for Dozuki back in 2011?
Wow, going back to 2011. Well, first of all, Dozuki was built to be a cloud-based connected worker platform, really focused on those frontline workers. And the kickstart really started with looking at the global manufacturing space and realizing 95% of frontline workers are still manual. They're still using paper. Simply unbelievable. I didn't believe it myself. When you went and toured a manufacturing facility, you saw the way they learn was a piece of paper. Or if it wasn't a piece of paper and if it wasn't documented, you had to search for a senior worker that's been doing that job. And when you looked across the rest of the world, right, across all different industries, with the adoption and the digital adoption, right, of helping you with your job, there had to be a change. So Dozuki was created.
And in your role as CEO now, what do you see as currently the main headwinds that are impacting the manufacturing industry?
On a worldwide basis, these three headwinds are common. The stats I'm going to use are primary US stats, and therefore by industry, meaning manufacturing industry, and by country, the numbers in those stats may change, but it's the common headwinds. The first one being that 27% of all frontline manufacturing workers are retiring by 2033. That's 8 years from now. Look at the US market alone. At any one time, there's 13 to 15 million workers. So that means over 3 million frontline workers. You equate that to 95% of them are manual on paper, or they're relying on these workers that have worked there for 30 some years. That domain knowledge is leaving. That's a headwind. The second headwind there is that 37% of all frontline employees leave the job within 1 year. It's not sustainable. And nothing's being done about it, right? They're still on paper. We're not providing career paths. We're not providing skill development for these new oncoming workers. The third headwind that we see is that, back into the US market as a reference, in the US in 2024, $225 million has been put into manufacturing, to build new manufacturing plants, primary for chip manufacturing, battery, wind, solar, etc. It is estimated that in the next 8 years also, that investment will continue. During that period of time, it's expected that 3.8 million more frontline workers are going to be needed, based on retiring individuals, based on a high turnover rate. It's expected that half of those jobs won't be filled. That's a major challenge. That's a major challenge for the supply chain, right? And it's a major challenge where if I have challenges in the supply chain, I have challenges with inflation.
So clearly there are a number of issues on the table right now. Where then does Dozuki come into the picture, and how do your solutions really help manufacturing companies to drive their performance?
Well, our connected platform is helping them in 4 different areas. The first is providing a digital platform to take that work that is written on paper or in someone's head and put it in a digital form. That digital form is not text-based. That digital form is how your workers want to learn. It's a TikTok, YouTube, Google type of experience, where now, best way to give you an example. Let's say I'm a frontline worker. I'm running on a machine. That machine has a roll of paper that roll of paper runs out. I haven't run this machine for probably months. I forgot how to change the roll of paper. So what does Dozuki do from a digital knowledge platform? I use a digital device, an iPad, an iPhone, a rugged device, whatever the customer wants. They scan a QR code that's next to that paper roll. Dozuki comes up. It basically says a brief description, is this what you're trying to do? A brief video to describe how you need to do it. If I still need more help, I then move into a step-by-step picture, call-outs, and instructions on how to do the job. Without Dozuki, what would they do? They would probably go to an 80-page process document, look on how to get the job done, or I'd have to go find Bob, who's the expert underneath this.
So incredibly time-consuming.
And the line may be down for 15 minutes, which is costing money. The second thing that Dozuki provides is learning pathways, skills development. Back to that headwind. Why are individuals not showing up after a year, after a week, after a month in the job? Because they don't see a career development. So what Dozuki does is it puts that in the hands of those new individuals. It provides them to see where a career is, provides them to map out where they want their skills to go. Skills equate to pay, promotions equate to pay, gives them a career path within manufacturing. Again, trying to tear down or curve those headwinds. The third area is digital forms. If I walk into a manufacturing plant today, my inspections, my checklist are all paper. Well, what happens? Paper goes into a box, it never utilizes.
Gets forgotten.
Exactly. And lastly, probably my favorite is collaboration. And a platform where an individual can collaborate. Collaboration means continuous improvement. I'm going to go back to a real life example. A real life example is back into that paper. That individual who couldn't perform the job, easily perform the job using Dozuki. What he noticed on that instruction was you had to perfectly align this paper, otherwise there would be a jam. What he also noticed there was a fan coming up on the top. That fan was stopping him from aligning the paper. Continuous improvement, collaboration, is he put a note, real time, within that instruction that says, you're missing a step. Make sure the fan is shut off. Otherwise, it will cost you an extra 10 minutes to try to align this. That 10 minutes over a year period of time may equate to $500,000. So that's what Dozuki does.
And 2024 also seems to have been a very big year for Dozuki. Maybe you can share a little bit more about that and the offerings that you have.
Yeah, I want to dive into two of the offerings here, knowledge management and learning pathways. So with knowledge management, there's thousands of workers today that hold decades worth of knowledge in their heads. And as they start to retire, a lot of that knowledge is lost. And as mentioned before, a lot of documentation is still on paper. And then usually if you walk the factory floor, what's being performed on the factory floor is usually what's not documented. So Dozuki, with knowledge management, we introduced a new AI capability, Creator Pro, where you can take narrative videos and capture that tribal knowledge from that individual and then convert that into a standardized work instruction that can be delivered to the frontline worker.
The training of new employees is also a big part of the work that you do. Can you talk to us about how manufacturing firms can use Dozuki to build these skilled frontlines?
Yeah, it really starts with one major challenge that companies have today. And what it is that the traditional learning management system and the Microsoft Word documents, they were built for the office worker, not the factory floor, where they have hands-on jobs and more process-driven work environments. So with that, there's three major things that we look at. First one is around recruitment and growth. So companies need to think about workers more than just a unit of work, but start with planning a career path or a skill progression in place. The second one is really, and then what I call the holy grail, is utilizing data to target training for these frontline workers. What we're looking at Dozuki with is taking that training data and marrying it with operational data so that you can see the impact of your training on operational outcomes. And third one is really create value on skill progression. As frontline workers start to skill up, you need to have them pay for performance, offer career advancement, and job security.
Jory, let's finish up with you. Looking ahead to 2025, what would you say are your main goals and priorities? And can you talk to us about some of the most tangible results that you have seen?
I mean, I think if I look into 2025 is to accelerate what we're doing, it's working. We're recognized as the leader in the connected worker space as it relates to the frontline manufacturing worker. And the reason why I want to say accelerated is if you look at some of the stats that Alan mentioned, 500 customers, thousands of locations across those customers, hundreds of thousands of people, and you said millions, it's actually tens of millions of documents there. That has equated to real results. And some of those results are back to that headwind of retention of employees. Our customers that have adopted us have seen 20 to 22% reduction in employee turnover. And it's amazing. That's real bottom dollars. Equipment downtime, which is affected on the bottom lines, measured in every manufacturer's OEE calculation. We're seeing 30% reduction in downtime. An example, if a downtime for 1 minute in one operation may cost $10,000, and we're decreasing that by 30% across the board. We're also seeing less challenges with safety instances because we believe connected workers that are engaged, that have a better pride of ownership, strive for a safer environment. And that goes the thing for operational efficiency. And lastly, it reduces scrap, it reduces waste. They have ownership. And we used to have that for those employees that are retiring 30, 35 years ago, but the world's changed. The expectation is to be digital, and manufacturing has to become digital.
So it seems like the business model is working. Now it's all about accelerating the adoption over the next couple of years.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's working very well. If you had some of the stats that Alan mentioned we have 500 customers, across those customers, thousands of locations, hundreds of thousands of employees, and tens of millions of documents. The great thing that we're seeing is the return on investment those customers are getting. It's affecting their operational efficiencies, where we're seeing production efficiencies reduce or increase by 30%. We're seeing scrap and waste come down by 25%. One of the most interesting stats tied into our headwinds is that we're seeing 20% reduction in the number of people leaving after 1 year with the job. So those are great results. So back to what you said, we got to accelerate what we're doing.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what's next in the Dozuki story. And thank you once again for joining us here today.
Thank you for having us.
Making manufacturing faster, safer, and better is key for frontline workers. As a leader in connected worker solutions, Dozuki has already supported hundreds of companies in their transition to digitizing, upskilling, and empowering their workforce.